Rocket is the key fintech hub in Lithuania, where top creators and founders build the future of financial technologies and the next generation of sustainable innovation. Acting as a dynamic ecosystem, we provide space for networking, expertise sharing, and cooperation, enabling and contributing to the success stories of the finance, technology, and innovation sectors. During the past years, our hub has established a leading position as the home of fintech and core place for fintech community.
Hello, everybody. My name is Martinas, and it is my big pleasure to be moderating yet another online event. And today, this event is going to be extra special and very, very interesting because today we are discussing about the new type of a digital money, which could be issued in the very, very near future by the central banks globally. And actually, today I'm very happy because about these big, big possible changes of the future, we are able to be talking to three experts from three different central banks. So what we are going to do today is to start with Marius Jurgilas, who is board member at Lietuvos Bankas, which is central bank and supervisory institution of Lithuania. What is also very important here is that Marius is a member of high-level task force at the European Central Bank, and this task force is working on this central bank digital currency. We also have a representative from the European Central Bank itself, and it is Austėja Šostakaitė, who is working at the market infrastructure, on the market infrastructure questions at the European Central Bank. She will be giving us introduction to the topic of the digital euro, possible currency for the very near future. And finally, the final presentation will be given by Carl Andreas Clausen, who is the representatives of Sveriges Riksbank, and that means Sweden's central bank. So he will be sharing us the very latest news and the project description of the e-krona, so electronic currency going into the production, hopefully in the Sweden in the next few years. After that, we are going to have a question and answer session. And that's why it's very important for you, my dear audience, to be interactive throughout this event. So please take your opportunity to ask questions. And some of you are watching this video on Facebook channel. Some of you are watching this video on YouTube. Wherever you are watching it, please be sure to discuss among yourselves and post your questions to the speakers that you are going to see on the screen in a few minutes. So without wasting any more of your precious time, I would like to introduce Marius Jurgilas, board member at Lietuvos Bankas, to give us some introductory remarks. Marius, the screen is yours right now.
Thank you, Martinas. Good evening, everyone. Well, it's not officially evening, but in this time, it's already dark by this time. And I would like to use this opportunity to introduce to the audience, and in this case, this corner of Europe, an issue which we all know by the name of digital euro. And the purpose of this event that we agreed to host together with other colleagues from the other institutions that Martina just mentioned is to introduce to the public the issue of digital euro. What is the issue? The issue is that now officially European Central Bank is discussing publicly with the all constituencies involved, from European Parliament, European Commission to the general public, should or should not European Central Bank introduce digital euro, and if so, what does it mean? What are the benefits? What are the risks? And how should we do that? And let me tell you that your voice, and that's why I think Martinas is so excited, cannot be more important at this moment. So we would like you to not only actively engage in the discussion that we have here tonight, facilitated by Austėja and our friends from Riksbank. We also would like you to officially respond to the consultation paper, which is an official document put forward for the public to discuss. And the issue is not only posed probably what majority of the audience now thinks in the context of crypto assets or stable coins. No, it's part of a much more broader discussion, which we also are in the middle of the making. European Union has put forward the digital finance package, which is a great initiative of thinking how we should change the infrastructure, the way we do finance in Europe in generally. And also it has a very specific area called European payment strategy. Even drilling down, European payment strategy has something to say, how should we do payments in Europe, not only electronically, but in the physical form? What's the role of cash, physical cash, and maybe digital cash? All these things are, of course, touching multiple areas of economic activity, the conduct of policy, be it fiscal policy or be it monetary policy, or general finance. So I really cannot think of a more involved question that and more timely question that in this context that we are right now in the pandemic, we should be discussing. So without further ado, and not kind of trying to take the thrust of the discussions that our colleagues from European Central Bank and Riksbank will bring to this discussion, I hereby really encourage you once again to actively participate in this debate, not only tonight, but also in the official consultation. Thank you, and I'll be remaining for the remainder of this talk to engage with you in the Q&A session.
Yeah, many thanks, Marius. So please use the opportunity to give questions to Marius as well. And right now we are diving deep into the specific questions. First of all, about digital euro, and it will be presented by Austėja Šostakaitė. So Austėja, we are watching you, we are hearing you, and the screen is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. And today I would like to talk to you about the digital euro and what it is and what we are doing. So basically, as you know, Eurosystem has entered into this analytical phase of digital euro, and we just recently issued a report in October about this very topic. So let me start by answering this question. So what is digital euro? So digital euro would be a central bank money made available to citizens and firms in digital form to use in retail payments. It is very important to tell you that digital euro would be complementing and not substituting cash and central bank deposits. It would as well be a digital equivalent to illegal tender banknotes, so to cash which is existing but in digital form. Thirdly, it would be a costless access for citizens to a basic payments needs via a simple, risk-free, and trusted digital means of payment. So now when we kind of grasp what a digital euro is, what could be the main benefits? So basically, we started this report into really looking into the context of what is happening in the payments and in the international fora as a whole. And we see that we have a lot of a move into digital age, and we think that digital euro and introduction of digital euro would really strongly support the digitalization of European economy. Also, additionally, we see that in some countries, not particularly in Eurozone yet, but there is some decline of cash. And as long as cash is demanded, of course, we are committed to providing cash to citizens, but we always have to be ready to respond in case the usage of cash is declining. Thirdly, of course, there's a lot of also developments around the world, and we think that it's very important to be ready to tackle sovereignty concerns in case there is a, for example, foreign CBDC issued or increasing private digital means of payment, and they are emerging in the euro area. So then we need to really understand what we're dealing with, and the euro system, as you see highlighted here, needs to be prepared in case any of those scenarios materializes. So as I mentioned, there is a lot of global developments in this topic, and only in 2020 we saw that, for example, Federal Reserve System, they started work on CBDC, and they partnered with MIT to test various technologies of this. Also on the right-hand side, we see that the People's Bank of China, they, I should say, are already ahead of us, and because they're already piloting digital yuan in 5 cities of China, and they're really pushing this topic further. So besides these few examples, we see already that there's at least 80% of central banks working and engaging in CBDC. So alongside the private sector initiatives, we understand that Eurosystem has to react, and we are doing that, and we are entering into the phase of active listening. And what Marius already mentioned, we already published a public consultation where we invite people and industry participants to reply and to engage and express their opinion. So when we look at CBDC, there is a lot of questions going our way. So how is it different from other forms of money, from whatever I have already in my card? So let me debunk this, and let's start at the right. We see there is a lot of emergence in crypto assets and the Bitcoins of the world, but basically what it is with cryptocurrencies, they are not a liability of anyone. They are volatile and they are risky. So they are not a suitable asset for means of payment. When we look in the middle, and this is the biggest amount of electronic money nowadays, we have liabilities of private entities. So firstly, we have commercial bank money, which are the ones you use in your cards. We have electronic money, and there is also raising interest in stable coins, which claim to be a liability of an identifiable entity. But again, there still have some risks, and with that in mind, we arrive at the left, where we have liabilities of the central bank. So what is this now? So now liabilities of central bank are 2. We have cash, they're in physical form, and they're accessible to general public. And also we have central bank deposits, which are digital form, but with limited access of only several entities there. So what we did with the analysis, we took the 2. So we took the wide accessibility to public, and we took digital form, and we get a central bank digital currency, or as we call it, digital euro, which would be a digital form of accessible asset complementing cash and deposits. When we really think about this possible product, what are the necessary elements? What are we thinking about when we are analyzing digital euro topics? So we really start by looking at end user perspective, and what are the customers wanting? What are their needs? Where is the retail payments progressing? And from that point of view, we arrive at a lot of crossroads where we have to take a lot of open design decisions, and to really build a viable product, which of course means that we also tackling a lot of legal questions, and we really have to introduce digital euro with legal grounds. It's not only legal tender questions, there is a lot of more of those. Also looking into more of a, let's say, technical questions, we look into how backend infrastructure should look like for digital euro, and whether the existing Eurosystem target services could provide this. On top of that, we also care about how customers would access digital euro, and should it be cards, should it be apps, is there a digital euro brand in Europe? So in here we're looking into of course payment service providers, and what front-end infrastructure they could help provide with us. And lastly, of course, it is very important to have a very strong distribution framework. So how do we introduce euro into the ecosystem? How it collaborates with commercial bank money? What are the intermediaries? How do we always ensure that digital euro is a liability of central bank? What's the technological soundness, and so on and so forth. So this is just a few, let's say, areas where we look at it, and we will be continuously working on them as well. So there's a $1 million question here, right? So how would the digital euro look like? And we really cannot prejudge yet how it will actually look like, because we don't know what would be the scenarios, what would be the input from the industry and from citizens on this. But we understand that there are some key points that digital euro should follow. So I will briefly list them out here. So it should look like any other modern payment solution at point of sale and online. It should be available throughout entire euro area. Of course, it should serve the needs of all the segments of population, and here we mean inclusion of all the segments of society. It should particularly be mindful of privacy, that, and this is an interesting point, because we see that, of course, payment service providers, they're interested in user data, right? And central bank could really help to preserve that. Next, we, by definition, digital euro would be a risk-free central bank money. And lastly, it would be free of charge for basic use. So then we can move into a very also viable question of, so what would be the role of private entities? Would it be crowd out or not? So I really want to stress here that we are of the view that digital euro would be complementing any private initiatives. And it is desirable that there are several means of payment coexisting in the euro area. And we agree that private sector is and will remain more innovative. They have more at the forefront of technology. They provide better products, so we don't compete with that. And central banks actually do not have the ambition to take up the front-end servicing. We do not want to take away the deposits, and we really tackle those questions when we think about the digital euro design. So again, to stress here that digital euro would be offered through supervised service providers, and they would be part of the ecosystem. So also in our report, and of course our daily work with digital euro, there is not only benefits, but we look at risks and what could be the implications if we issue digital euro. So if you look at one of the topics, we see banking sector and monetary policy issues and financial stability risks. So we strongly say that digital euro should not be a form of investment, and it should prevent a risk of large shifts from bank deposits. So for that, we are looking into what could be the features that would enable that. So for example, we are thinking about holding limits or disincentivizing remuneration and things like that. When we look at the risks for central bank, we really want to see that digital euro is distributed via supervised intermediaries, and what could be the licensing regimes. Of course, it's very important that digital euro is resilient to technology threats, and so on. And also, lastly, more broadly, it is really important that digital euro serves the goals that Eurosystem pursues. And one thing about the international role of the euro, it is not our primary objective for it to become widely used worldwide. Therefore, we are looking into how can we condition the usage of non-euro area customers. So with that in mind, we of course have a lot of open design questions and open considerations for this topic for years to come, but we already opened a public consultation which is active till 12th of January. So please scan this code and visit and provide your input, because we really want to hear what do citizens, how do they imagine digital euro, what could be their desirable features or something that they are concerned about. We also seek the input from public authorities and market participants, because we really want to understand what are the challenges you see from your perspective, and what would be the expectations for this product from its users, basically. So very briefly here, I will delve into a few of the questions that we have for professionals in the consultation. So on the left, we really are interested in what could be the roles of banks, payment institutions in providing digital euro, how could they facilitate the design, and what are the requirements for intermediaries in the digital euro services. And then we ask about the services. What could be the functionalities that intermediaries could provide on top of digital euro basic services? How could they integrate digital euro in the existing banking products? And what could be the technological challenges for them? And lastly, of course, there is a lot of questions on, so what are the features of digital euro? So we asked about how to facilitate cross-currency payments, what could be the technical solutions for backend, or what is the degree of privacy versus AML requirements, and so on and so forth. So I really, again, invite you to participate and provide your views on this. So as I mentioned, there is a lot of work ahead of us, and we are actively assessing and even doing the experimentation on this topic. So we are looking into implementations for the key central bank areas, such as monetary policy, financial stability. We also analyze further what could be the design features. Should it be private? Should it be remunerated at some rates? What could be the technological aspects, like should we enable cash-like features, offline transactions, should we use distributed ledger technologies, and so on and so forth. So there is a lot to unpack here. So just to go a few steps further, we started with the Euro system, the experimentation, and we have currently 4 streams that look into different topics that are tightly related to how could digital euro look like. So the first one is analyzing the scalability of our instant payment settlement system in the Euro system, and we're looking into how existing settlement system could be used for retail transactions. The second one is we're looking into how do we combine a centralized system with a distributed ledger technologies, and what could be the advanced features that digital euro could enjoy, like programmability and so on. The third one is working on payment-dedicated blockchain and its use with electronic identity. And again, what could be the advantages for digital euro in case of the setup? And the fourth, we have a research into hardware exploration, where we look into actually at the device level, how do we enable offline transactions and topics related to physical nature of digital euro. So all of this feeds into our work, and next year the Euro system will consider whether to launch a digital euro project, and that means not issuing a digital euro, but launching a really focused work, and we will be investigating all of the open questions, all of the design decisions, and we will be closely collaborating with the Euro system central banks and private entities as well. So that's it from me, and thank you very much. I was trying to be very fast here, but if you have want to know more details, please visit our Digital Euro Hub. There is more information there. There is the report that we published. There is a link to the public consultation. And of course, if you have any questions, you can drop us an email, and talk to you soon. Thanks.
Many thank you, Stea, for a detailed overview. So we will be diving even deeper in the question and answer session. And I'm sure there will be many interesting and challenging aspects to touch, such as privacy, during our panel discussion afterwards. But between us and the panel discussion, right now we are having the presentation of Carl Andreas from the Sweden Central Bank. And it's very interesting because Sweden is one of those countries which is probably using the least cash of all the countries globally, all around the world, but still we are discussing whether central bank should be providing the solution provided by the central bank in order to facilitate digital payments. So this means that only private solutions probably is not enough, at least in the Sweden case. That's why it's very, it will be very, very fascinating to have expertise shared by Carl Andreas. Carl Andreas, we are listening to your presentation.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for the introduction. I will I'll take a little bit broader view and give you a little bit more on the background and how we're thinking before coming to the e-krona. it is partly important because there has been so very much focus on the e-krona, but we are doing much more as well. So let me first start by saying that the Riksbank, like many other central banks, one of the key tasks or the things we're tasked with is that we shall promote a safe and efficient payment system. And how do we do that? Well, we do it in many ways, but of course, what we have to do is to look at the payment system in Sweden. Is it working? Where does it not work? Where are there market imperfections, etc. And then after having identified where things need to be done, we have to see what we can do, and if we can do it, or if we need help from the market, etc., etc. And then, so yeah, and let me. I thought we could, or I would look at three areas where we work. And the first is the domestic payment system. It is fair to say that the system in the domestic payment system in Sweden works very well in compared to in an international comparison. It's very efficient. People have choices, and it's safe, and there are innovations. However, we can still improve, and one area where we think there is a need for improvement, that is in instant payments. As some of you might know, we already have something called Swish, which is a system where you can transfer money from a bank account to another in seconds. And you initiate the payment by your mobile phone or an application on your mobile phone. So there is already yes, and it's the same system that works for all banks that are connected. However, it's still somewhat restricted. So it's restricted in terms of how much you can transfer, and also who can connect to the system. So therefore, the Riksbank has initiated a new project, and we will introduce a new settlement service in 2022 that enable payments to be settled between banks in real time, round the clock, and every day, year round. And this we will do, so it will run on the European or the Euro systems target instant payment settlement system, TIPS, or the platform, TIPS platform. So that will, if things go after plan, happen in 2022. And then there is, of course, cross-border payments, where payments can be very slow, very inefficient, very expensive. And here we have projects with different central banks, but one of the projects is also, or that project is also with the European Central Bank, where we look at, or we investigate the possibility of using the TIPS platform to implement instant payment service between European currencies, such as the Swedish krona and the euro. The TIPS system is currently restricted to payments where the party making the payments and the party receiving the payments have accounts in the same currency. And then to the e-krona. So why do we need the e-krona then, and why are we looking at the e-krona? So I guess, as you already heard, and I guess many of you have heard before, what is happening in Sweden, or heard about what's happening in Sweden with cash. So the use of cash has actually been falling for many, many years in Sweden. This graph shows cash in circulation in relation to GDP. And as you can see, it's fallen constantly from back in the 50s. And now it's down to roughly 1% of GDP. And I think it's the lowest in the world. And it's very much lower than, for instance, in the ECB. And this is really the development that spurred or made us, was kind of the starting point for us looking into this issue about the CBDC. And we have called it an e-krona. So when I say e-krona in the following, it will be about the Swedish krona CBDC. And we started looking at this back in 2017. And at that time, it wasn't, I think it was kind of a new thing. People had been discussing it in blogs and stuff, and there was some work in the academia. And much of the arguments back then was related to monetary policy and the zero lower bound for interest rates. And remember also at this time we had the hype around Bitcoin. So we started thinking, okay, cash seems to be disappearing in Sweden, and there are all this other stuff happening. Maybe we need to issue some more modern digital form of the Swedish krona, of the cash that the Riksbank has traditionally issued. And we started with more like brainstorming, trying to find out what would an e-krona actually be, what are the benefits, what are the risks, etc., etc. Much of what the ECB has been doing now, and we published one report about that. I think it was late 2017, and then another one 1 year later, where we dig a bit deeper. And essentially, yes. And let me also say, so the motivation is kind of, so if cash, or kind of, or really, or so if cash is to disappear, it's kind of like the traditional foundation for the Swedish krona is disappearing, or at least one might think so. So the Swedish cash is kind of emblematic of what the Swedish krona is. And when you have money in your bank, you cannot believe that you can actually, you actually can. You can exchange it for cash. So what if cash disappears? Will there then be a Swedish krona? What will it be, etc., etc.? And that's really, again, the background for our project. And what did we find out? It was pretty much the same as the ECB has done. There are potential benefits, there are potential risks. We have to be careful when we design this. And the Riksbank has not decided whether to issue or whether to not to issue, but we are still working on this. And one of the things we're doing now is that, oh, sorry, I thought I should say something about the arrows here in the diagram as well. So the main motivation for the e-krona project is really this national money type of thing, cash disappearing. Maybe we have to replace it with something digital. But it is also the case that maybe an e-krona could help facilitating more efficient cross-border payments. This is something we're looking at together with other central banks. And then it will also, maybe it can facilitate better competition in the Swedish domestic payment market. Maybe it can contribute to more resilience, etc. Okay, so what we are doing now, so now we have kind of turned into a more of a hands-on phase where we look at concrete technical solutions, but it's only we are kind of testing and we want to learn. So it's not that we have decided for anything, but we have started some tests. We call it the e-krona pilot. I would say it's more like a proof of concept. And what we're testing now is this model, which this picture is supposed to illustrate. It's rather complicated, but let me just say that it is a technical solution that has much of what many will call the new technology, which is often characterized with the buzzwords like DLT, blockchains, tokens, etc. So it's not an account system. It is more like a token-based system. What we are testing, and we're doing this together with Accenture. I don't think I'll say anything more about this, but you may feel free to ask later if you're interested. Yes, so this was really my presentation. So the Riksbank, like all other or many other central banks, we are supposed to promote a safe and efficient payment system. We do try to improve on the domestic part of the system, and especially it's this new instant settlement system, which will open for much more instant payments than we have today. We're working on the cross-border payment front, partly in collaboration with ECB, but also with other central banks. And then we have the e-krona, which is kind of maintaining the foundation or the central bank issued money that the general public can hold as the foundation for our monetary system, and an important building block in the national monetary system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carl, Andreas. And right now we will be diving into the panel discussion. So I would like to see all of the panelists right here. So Stea, Marius, welcome back to the stage. And we will be starting by asking the question about the real consumers, about the final beneficiaries of these possible projects. So you are all central bankers, actually. What's in it for the people, though? So I have been listening to the speech by Carl Andreas very attentively, and I had something like this. So CBDC, central bank digital currency, could be the backstop, so for the resilience of payment system, number one. Number two, for the competition. So we need more competition, and the state itself, or the central bank at this point, is going into the competition to drive up the competition in the payment area, in the money area. So number two. And number three, some kind of, national sentiment. So we had in the past cash, it was widely used, and now we don't have it anymore, or maybe very lowly used, only for storage of value. And we would like to have that identity, going on. So these are three mains, and I would like to ask directly now Marius, and after that Ostea, what is it for the euro system? So in the eyes of the euro system, what's the main driving value for the benefits?
Mm-hmm. I guess you're trying to get at the most important question, but we won't be able to exhaust all the possibilities, all the use cases that researchers are talking about when they talk about digital euro. But I think here we have some misconception, and some of that misconception is already visible in the comments, that people do not distinguish between central bank issued money and just having an account or a payment card or some other means of payments, which is commercial money, right? This is, in the eyes of an average consumer, who cares, right? It's money. I'm able to buy coffee and receive salary in my bank account. How is that different from just physical cash or the future to be digital cash? Well, the main difference is that you do not face the possibility of that money disappearing, at least for some kind of financial mismanagement, right? That's one. The second one is that, and here I'm making a bigger jump in the kind of expectations of the audience. Central banks are conducting their policy by adjusting the levers of what they do with interest rates, various programs, by trying to affect the growth of money in the economy through the money creation process. And that is what the financial institutions, banks, are usually engaged in. So you having an account at one of the Lithuanian or Swedish banks is not equivalent to holding physical cash in your pocket. Think about the possibility of having an account at the central bank. That is what we're talking about. But what Austere already clearly stipulated, the central bank is not looking for this customer-facing position. And that's answering your question, Martinas. What is it for consumers? It's a possibility for the central bank to provide this better service, utilizing the new innovative way how market participants are interacting with customers in the digital finance space, but preserving the safety, resilience of the payment systems at the retail level. That's me speaking. Some other colleagues in the central banking community are saying that's not what the digital euro is about. It is about the wholesale, what consumers have no idea what I'm talking about, but these big institutions channeling trillions and billions of euros between themselves ensure that when this happens, the system is resilient. But for the consumers, think about having an account at the central bank.
So, Marius, directly after your comment, why cannot central banks open and enable commercial banks to open the accounts for ordinary consumers directly at the central bank even now? Is it because of the legal problems? Is it because of the monetary policy structure? So, for example, if I'm a rich person and I'm holding millions and millions of euros in my commercial bank account now, I probably will be charged some negative interest rates. So maybe CBDC will be delivering some kind of benefit for me, at least in this sphere. How would that work if it would be a reality?
Yeah. Yes. So in the history, central banks have been providing retail services to the general public. We can go to the, like 18th century United States, or even Bank of England still has some historical checkbooks for some of the customers, but that's historical nuisance and not the accepted practice, because in the current environment, in the current state of affairs, the central bank is a policy institution and it's not trying to interfere in the private business, right? Managing liquidity, managing and providing services, financial services is it's a private initiative. So even in the current initiative of a digital euro, the central bank, European Central Bank, and all the other central banks are stepping in very carefully and saying, we are investigating how should we do what is our business, right, to ensure the stability of the currency. Why? Because we see private initiatives appearing on the horizon. I don't have to mention the names of them, and we are worried from multiple perspectives. We're not worried about losing our own role. No, we are worried about the new risks that could implement. And maybe the things that we have been doing in a centralized fashion we can still keep on doing that and avoid these new risks that new financial innovations can bring to us.
I would like to address my next question to Austere and Carl Andreas. So what about the timeline? We are speaking about investigation of risk, about research, about some academic work going on in this sphere. But people who are watching this translation want to know when could we expect working proof of concept, at least to some extent, some implementations, maybe in small scale. So do you plan those, I don't know, in 1 or 2 years, or it is only in the far away future? Austere, could we start with you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Of course, that's not a question of is it tomorrow or the day after, but I think it is a medium-term goal, and it's at least 5 years until we see some developments. And of course, we have to look at the global initiatives. And if there's a movement, and if there's a real foreign CBDC, for example, or Facebook coming into Europe, then it might accelerate the production of it. But it's not. And we are not going fast. We are really looking into all of the possibilities, and we are analyzing it. So yeah, there is a lot of work to do yet. So it's not going to be quickly.
Okay, thank you. Carl Andreas, what about Sweden?
Yeah. So what we have said. So first, the proof of concept or the pilot we're working on now, that was first a 1-year project and it ends in February. Then we'll make an evaluation. We'll see, should we continue with that? Should we try something new? And when we decide, the plan then is that it should be a project that goes over several years, and that we will probably or maybe build something that we can launch if it's decided that we shall launch it. But that will take 4 or 5 years. And in the meantime, there's also a public, because there are some legal questions, and this is also this is such a big issue that we cannot, or at least we felt earlier we couldn't decide on this. We need some political, what should I say, backing. So we asked or we suggested to the parliament that there was that they should have an expert committee looking into this. The parliament sent a question to the government, and now the government is putting down an expert committee that will look at it. So there are different things going on in parallel, but I personally would say at least 4 years, 5 years or something. And remember, we have not decided. Yeah, not decided to issue. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we have not decided to issue and not decided not to issue.
Carl Andreas, you saw me super excited at the very beginning of this event when I was all energetic and saying it's about future and it's going to happen fast. But now we are talking about the deadlines and possible project fruition phase very far away from now. So what comes if, for example, some stable coins comes into play? Yesterday I was reading through the Financial Times that probably Libra is going to issue stablecoin of United States dollar. So what happens if you have to compete with some private stablecoins? And Marius, I saw that you would like to jump in here.
Carl, you want to address or?
You can start and then I'll.
Okay. All right. So it's not that whenever central banks are not communicating, they are not working. And Austere already showed you more than I think is enough. On one of his slides, she presented 4 different use cases or test cases that the European Central Bank is right now engaged in testing how and if, of course, if to be decided and all conditional statements, but the work is ongoing. And central banks are very conservative institutions, and they are trying to ensure that if and when they introduce the new technology for whatever, even for the banknotes, the safety features, we do the test to ensure that, they don't break your wallet. So the work is ongoing, but your comment with regards to private initiatives is the right one. And even a couple of years back, the central banking community was not talking about the issue of digital whatever. And the reason why we started talking about that is exactly the reason that the public is forcing us, and we are we are providing service to the public. If the public will speak, and that's why it's important to participate in this consultation, that we need these services. I want the possibility of not dealing with physical reincarnations of legal tender. I don't understand what that is, but you do your stuff. Or maybe the answer will be, like we have some comments in the chat here, that what's the difference? If the public is happy with what they have, nothing will be introduced. If there will be private initiatives which will make cross-border payments much more easier to handle, if buying things from foreign countries is acceptable to be done in digital dollar, that will prevail. But let me tell you that at least one of the reasons, and not the least one, is the geopolitical one. It's, of course, the sovereignty of the Euro area, the European Union, trying to preserve the importance of Euro in the cross-border payments And for the first time, if you read the documents, European Union has spoken. We want euro to be an important player in the cross-border flow of capital. So that's also an important one. And Carl also mentioned that even Sweden is thinking about cross-border payments. And Libra, the first use case that Libra is trying to resolve is making cross-border payments cheaper. So we all are doing the same thing.
So, yes.
Yes, Carl, go ahead.
Yeah, so I agree, and I would like to add that for Sweden, being a small open economy, we are always exposed to this kind of, what should I say, competition from other currencies, and even euro would have elements of this, depending on what kind of restrictions you put on it. But in that sense, it will maybe be quite similar to Libra, actually, in terms that it will kind of push pressure or compete with the Swedish krona. And there is some kind of tension here. On the one hand, we would like more efficient, smoother, easier cross-border payments, but at the same time, that can lead to people not wanting or seeing the need anymore to hold Swedish krona or to use Swedish krona. So there is definitely a tension there, but I think what we can do is, and what we have to do is to make sure that we have a very attractive payment system in Sweden, for Swedes in Sweden, a system that is cheap, efficient, innovative. That's really what we can do. And the e-krona would be a part of this, but we have to do much more, which is what I tried to say in the beginning. We have to make it efficient and attractive also payments in using bank money, etc.
On this point, Carl, I will add and also respond to one of the comments being asked. So the physical cycle of cash has the cost to the society in some countries of 2% of GDP. And that is the inefficiency. And not only the physical cycle, the infrastructure that we have, which is maintaining the card payments, which has been maintaining the payment system, which was not settling payments live or instantly. It also introduced frictions, and these frictions we don't have to accept anymore. We can do better, and we'll try.
On this precise topic, so about the trade-offs between the cost and efficiency of the system, in order to have a good working and cheaper system, probably we need to have it digitalized. So that's one point of it, but not all the people are ready for digitalization. And we have one excellent comment and question from Thomas in our comment section about what to do with the people who are not that much tech savvy or who are challenged in various ways, and how they could reach. How could they be reached by the central bank issued digital currencies in the future? So maybe at the European Central Bank of State, you have already thought through this question, at least to some extent.
Yes, that's a very good question, because it is a big issue, and especially in a scenario if cash declines, right? And there is not enough accessibility to that. So we are taking this role to ensure that everybody has access to this. And this is in comparison to private initiatives, they're not always thinking of all of the users of euros. So we would be that island where everyone could access euro. Is it either if it's in the physical form and cash will be supplied whenever there's a demand from euro system, we are obliged to do it and we'll do it. And in a digital form, we are also looking into how do we provide it for, as mentioned, less tech-savvy people. Is it a very simple card? Is it a very simple device? I mean, we are looking into this heavily, of course, and we would ensure that everyone has access to that. And of course, there will be done a lot of work on really knowing what is the feeling from people and what are the different groups need and desire for digital euro. So we will be analyzing this further, of course. But for now, there's not a clear, I couldn't say how it will look like, but we are working towards that. Yes.
Yeah, Marius, go ahead.
On the point of accessibility to cash, I have to be very clear here that European Central Bank and European Parliament made sure that we are not talking about displacing physical cash. It's about facilitating an alternative for the use cases in the digital economy. But we will ensure that cash is available if there is a demand for it. And even we will go further that if the private market fails in some sense or gravitates into some corner solution, maybe Carl can also comment on this, how they view this situation in Sweden, where the society is choosing, not to use that much of cash. Maybe some regulatory interventions will be made not in the direction of applauding this change, but actually, requiring the acceptability of physical cash for those who want to use it.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And indeed, Carl and Andreas, it would be very interesting to hear about the view from Sweden. So do you have any regulations, or are you planning some regulations for the future in order to make it mandatory to accept cash, at least in certain spaces, at certain shops and so on?
So we had this was also a parliamentary inquiry, which we had, they came out with the report last year, and they looked into this and suggested some changes and some legal changes, which was also implemented. I think they're implemented now, which required the banks to have cash services geographically, etc., etc. But that's about it, I think, so far. When it comes to legal changes or requiring shops, etc., to accept cash. But this is a worry of the Riksbank, and it's also of politically in Sweden that cash now seems to disappear. And partly this is kind of interesting. It's written in the law, Swedish Riksbank law, that the Swedish krona is legal tender in Sweden. But then there is another law which says that if you agree beforehand that you can pay or don't have to pay with cash, so you can put up a poster outside the shop saying this shop doesn't accept cash, and that's like an agreement. If I enter that shop, I have accepted, so it's very easy to get around this legal tender.
To circumvent those requirements, that's for sure.
So it's interesting, and I guess I personally think we have to strengthen the legal tender if we want to maintain or keep cash. And you can see it, like I have friends that have kept on with cash for a long time, but now, as it's so hard to pay with cash, many places they see no reason anymore to have cash in the wallet, and it's what we call the network effect, and then it's suddenly the snowball is rolling very fast.
Yeah, so it means that less and less places are accepting cash over time, and there are less places which accept cash at a very increasing pace. So we have decreasing acceptance of cash in various markets. Talking about the risks, so we do have some questions about the risky side of central bank issued new types of money. And of course, one of those risks are privacy and fear of loss of privacy. In general, there is I would say, growing sentiment among the societies, at least across the Western world, that governmental institutions are infringing some human rights when it comes to privacy and micromanaging various aspects of our lives. And with the rise of central bank digital money, it could be made even stronger. This trend could be made even stronger. So what would be your comment upon that, and how could central banks and maybe other institutions ensure the strong respect for privacy rights of people all across the countries. Ostea, Marius, would you like to start on this one?
Ostea? No? Well, who said that the central bank is the only issuer of legal tender? Let me point out that even right now in the European Union, ECB is issuing euro notes. Euro coins is the responsibility of European Commission. You would say, I mean, how do you differentiate in the digital form? Is it coins or notes? So maybe we can separate, you know, many institutional things that we accept for given right now can be challenged, leading into even more complicated discussion also in the comments of this chat. Programmable money, you know, the ability to ensure that the stock of money or the value, let's call it stable or gradually losing value with a fixed built-in rate of inflation, is something that can be more efficient with regards to delegating policy making to a council of wise men and women at the European Central Bank. That's of course a very erratic statement that I have just said, but that's exactly what you know, innovations are challenging us to think. Are we doing what we're doing in the most efficient fashion? Because let's be frank, there is no competition for a central bank. The only competition is the challenge that the private market, the new innovations are bringing to us, and they're forcing us to change. And I really believe that these changes are for the good. And because if we will implement a change that the society is not accepting, that is irritating or is even scaring the society, the issue of privacy that you just brought up, then we will not be delivering what the society is looking for. So the central banks everywhere around the world are really transparent and saying, what do you want us to do? You know, now we have this technology. We are able to onboard almost every citizen in the private market. We can utilize private market participants, but maintain the safety. Which way should we go? And it's an open question.
This is a very thought-provoking remarks, actually, Marius, and it's good to have them, especially in this event. Why? Because it is being viewed by many stakeholders who would be able to feed in their feedback through the public consultation that is going on right now at the Eurosystem level. So I do encourage you to do so. The link to the public consultation, which is open till the mid-January, is right now in YouTube and Facebook comment section. So please follow the link and answer some questions. You can also omit questions. You do not need to answer, you know, every single of questions, because when I get the survey, it's like, oh my God, I need to at least, you know, 1 hour, 2 hours for this. No, if you do not want to go through every single question, you can just pick up some specific questions and give your views on that, for example, on privacy. Moving towards the conclusion of this event, I would like to thank you for all the panelists and give a very final word about, in your opinion, in your private opinion, what needs to be done in the next 12 to 24 months in order to advance to the proof of concept stage. So in order to advance with the central bank issued digital currency to reach the final consumers, because, you know, we do need to get some real testing to go on. So what do we need to do briefly in the near-term future in your view? So Ostea, could we start with you?
Yes, I think that we are in this phase already, that we need to listen to all the stakeholders, right? So what everyone has to say, is it a citizen, is it an industry partner? And then when we see what is the need and what is the perception of it, then we can move on with the concrete designs or issuing or not issuing the digital euro. So I think we are need to really listen and yes.
Marius, would you go next?
I think what we need to do over the next 12 to 24 months is to build consensus, which will by definition, consensus is majority or super majority of population, and we will have dissenting views, which we'll have to take into consideration, but still move the society forward. And I'm very happy that this building of the consensus is already taking place at the technical level, interoperability level. For example, how we will ensure that digital euro will be able to talk to digital e-krona, right? Or how do we include every part of the society into this project? So I would say that having more discussions like those in a much more involved fashion is something that we'll have to do over the next 12 to 24 months.
Thank you. And Carl Andreas.
Yes, and this is my personal view, and maybe a little bit provoking here. If the aim is to come up with something that we can launch fast, I think we should stay with the traditional technology that we know well. So that will need some balance-based system that is off-shelf available. It would be very quickly and easy to do. I am afraid we are delving too much into what we call new technology, and I'm afraid it cannot deliver what we think it can. But of course, I agree that it's very important that we learn and test and try. But if we want to make something quick, there is already the technology there, and that's the traditional balance-based or account-based type of stuff.
So
yeah.
Power to the target instant payment system and all the other ongoing systems to accept more new customers. Thank you, Carl Andreas, for sharing your view with us. And thank you, Stea, Marius, for staying with us through all this event. I would like once again to thank the organizers of this event, so Rocket FinTech Hub and Lietuvos Bankas, for having us all here. And lastly, but not least, I would like to say thanks to Judita, who made it all flawlessly from the technical side. Thank you, take care, and see you next time.